The information provided in this video is for educational and entertainment purposes only. Search engine optimization strategies, Google algorithms, and digital marketing trends are subject to constant change and evolution. The methods discussed are based on historical trends and industry case studies, and do not constitute professional marketing, financial, or legal advice. Every website is unique, and individual results will vary based on niche, competition, domain history, and technical implementation. There are no certain outcomes in SEO, and viewers are encouraged to conduct their own due diligence and consult with a certified professional before making significant changes to their business infrastructure or marketing budget. Most websites currently existing on the internet are functionally invisible. Historical data across the SEO industry suggests that over 90% of all content published online receives zero organic traffic from Google. If you are operating within the United States market, which represents the most competitive, saturated, and high-stakes digital landscape on the planet, those odds become even more daunting. In the US, you are not merely competing with the local business down the street. You are competing against multi-billion-dollar legacy corporations, massive media conglomerates with decades of authority, and an ever-increasing flood of AI-generated content that is being indexed by the millions every single day. If your current strategy is to simply write high-quality content and hope for the best, you have already lost the battle for the first page. The divide between the websites that dominate the search results and those that languish in total obscurity is not defined by luck or even by the size of the marketing budget. It is defined by a surgical, rigorous, and highly technical approach to on-page SEO that the vast majority of website owners completely ignore. The US consumer is arguably the most sophisticated and impatient digital user in the world. They demand immediate answers, impeccable mobile experiences, and a level of authoritative trust that takes years to build but only seconds to lose. When a user in New York, Los Angeles, or Chicago types a query into a search bar, Google's algorithm is performing a trillion-dollar calculation to decide which 10 results deserve their attention. To understand why these 5 steps are so critical, we must first analyze the current state of search in the United States. In the US, the cost per click for Google Ads in many industries, such as insurance, legal services, and enterprise software, has reached record highs, sometimes exceeding $100 per single click. This financial pressure has driven a massive influx of competitors into the organic search space, looking for a way to mitigate their customer acquisition costs. Consequently, the standard for what qualifies as a high-ranking page has been raised to an unprecedented level. Google's recent core updates have placed a massive emphasis on experience, expertise, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness, commonly known as AT. In the US market, where misinformation and low-quality AI content are rampant, Google uses on-page signals as a primary filter to protect its users. If your website does not explicitly demonstrate these qualities through its internal structure, metadata, and content delivery, it will be filtered out before it even has a chance to rank. Furthermore, we have to address the shift in user behavior. American searchers are increasingly using natural language and voice search. They are asking complex questions like, what is the best residential solar panel provider in Florida for hurricane resistance? Rather than just searching for solar panels. This shift requires a deep understanding of semantic search. On-page SEO in 2026 is no longer about matching a word. It is about matching an intent and an entity. This masterclass is designed to teach you how to bridge that gap. We will examine case studies where websites saw a potential increase in organic visibility by simply restructuring their header tags to better reflect the underlying entities of their niche. We will look at historical trends that show how mobile page speed in the US correlates directly with conversion rates and search rankings. The problem we are solving today is the lack of a cohesive, repeatable system for on-page optimization. Many people treat SEO as a checklist of tasks to be completed once and then forgotten. That is a fundamental misunderstanding of the process. True on-page excellence is an ongoing calibration. Throughout this 10-part series, and starting with our first 5 steps today, we are going to look at the granular details that separate the winners from the losers. We will discuss why the first 300 words of your content are the most important real estate on your entire website, and how to optimize them for both a human reader in the US and the Google crawler. We will break down the technicalities of schema markup, and why it is the secret language that tells Google exactly what your business does. If you have been struggling to move the needle on your traffic, or if you are launching a new project and need to ensure it has the strongest possible foundation, you are in the right place. We are going to strip away the jargon and provide a step-by-step roadmap. We will talk about why US-based hosting and content delivery networks are non-negotiable for domestic rankings. We will discuss the psychological triggers of the American consumer and how to reflect those in your meta titles and descriptions to maximize click-through rates. This is not just a tutorial. It is a masterclass in digital dominance for the American market. By the end of this series, you will have the knowledge required to audit any page on your site and understand exactly why it is or isn't performing, and more importantly, how to fix it. We are starting a journey into the deep mechanics of the search engine results page, and it begins with the most important element of your entire digital presence, the foundation of on-page SEO. Stay focused, take notes, and prepare to look at your website through a completely different lens. The US market waits for no one, and the opportunity for those who master these steps is immense. Let us begin with the first principles of high-impact on-page optimization. The first pillar of high-impact on-page SEO in 2026 begins with a radical reassessment of how we understand and implement keyword research and intent mapping for the United States audience. For years, the industry focused on search volume and keyword density as the primary metrics for success. However, historical trends from the last 24 months indicate that Google's algorithm has moved almost entirely toward a semantic, entity-based understanding of content. This means that if you are still just sprinkling a specific phrase throughout your article, you are using a strategy that was outdated 3 years ago. In the American market, where search behavior is incredibly diverse and nuanced, your first step is mastering intent alignment and entity association. Imagine a business owner named Alex in Austin, Texas. Alex is looking to upgrade the security system for his mid-sized tech office. In 2026, Alex does not just type security cameras into Google. He likely uses a voice assistant or a complex search query like, "What are the best AI-integrated commercial surveillance systems for a 3-story office in Texas that comply with state privacy laws?" This is a high-intent, hyper-specific query. If your website is optimized for the broad-term commercial security, you might show up in general results, but you will never capture Alex. To win in the US market, you must move beyond the keyword and move into the mind of the consumer. The first step in this masterclass involves creating an intent map. You must categorize every page on your website into one of 4 primary buckets: informational, navigational, commercial, or transactional. But here is the 2026 twist. The US search generative experience now often answers informational queries directly on the search page. This means if your content is purely informational without a unique perspective or original data, you are essentially providing free research for Google's AI while receiving 0 clicks in return. To combat this, historical trends show that websites focusing on commercial investigation, where the user is comparing options before a purchase, have seen much higher engagement rates. Let us look at a case study of a boutique financial consulting firm based in Charlotte, North Carolina. They were struggling to rank for broad terms like retirement planning. After performing a deep dive into intent mapping, they shifted their focus to specific, high-stakes US scenarios, such as 401k rollover strategies for tech employees during a corporate merger. By aligning their on-page content with the specific demographic and situational intent of their audience, they did not just increase their traffic, they increased their lead quality by a factor of 5. This happened because they stopped chasing volume and started chasing relevance. To implement this on your own site, you need to follow a rigorous step-by-step process for entity optimization. An entity is a well-defined object or concept that Google understands as a unique node in its knowledge graph. If you are writing about high-end real estate in Miami, Google expects to see related entities such as South Beach, luxury condominiums, property tax rates, and hurricane-rated glass. If these entities are missing, the algorithm perceives your content as thin or lacking authority. Step 1 of this implementation is to use a latent semantic indexing analysis to find the related terms that high-ranking US competitors are using. Do not look for synonyms. Look for contextual neighbors. If you are targeting the term organic skincare, your content should naturally include entities like dermatologically tested, paraben-free, FDA regulations, and sustainable sourcing. Step 2 is to analyze the search engine results page for your target query, specifically within the US region. Look at the People Also Ask section. These are the literal questions American users are asking. Your content must not only answer these questions, but do so more comprehensively than the top 3 results. The 2026 search landscape also requires you to optimize for the conversational nature of American searchers. Historical data suggests that over 40% of US households now utilize some form of voice-activated search daily. This has led to a rise in long-tail keywords that are structured as full sentences. Your on-page strategy must include a dedicated FAQ section for every major pillar page, marked up with the appropriate schema.org structured data. This tells the search engine exactly what question you are answering, which increases the potential outcome of appearing in a featured snippet or a voice search result. Furthermore, we must address the geographic nuance of the USA. The United States is not a monolithic market. A searcher in Seattle has different concerns, slang, and cultural context than a searcher in Atlanta. If your website targets a national audience, you must still incorporate regional entities to build localized authority. For example, if you are a national insurance provider, having pages that specifically address California-specific fire insurance regulations or Florida-specific flood insurance creates a level of topical depth that a generic page cannot match. This signals to Google that you are an exhaustive resource for the entire US market, not just a superficial aggregator. Another critical component of Step 1 is the concept of TF-IDF, or Term Frequency Inverse Document Frequency. This is a statistical measure used to evaluate how important a word is to a document in a collection or corpus. In 2026, sophisticated SEO tools can compare your content against the top 10 results in the US for your specific keyword and tell you if you are over-optimizing or under-optimizing for certain entities. If you use the word affordable 50 times but fail to mention quality or warranty once, the algorithm identifies a lack of semantic balance. A balanced, entity-rich page is what tells the Google crawler that your content is written by an expert for a human audience. The stakes for getting this right are incredibly high. Consider the potential outcomes for a website that fails this first step. You could spend thousands of dollars on high-quality backlinks and perfect technical infrastructure, but if your on-page intent is misaligned, the bounce rate will destroy your rankings. When a US user clicks on your site and realizes within 3 seconds that it does not answer their specific question, they will hit the back button. This short-click behavior is a massive negative signal to Google. In the US market, attention is the most valuable currency, and you have less than 5 seconds to prove your relevance. By mastering intent alignment and entity association, you are building the intellectual foundation of your website. You are ensuring that every word on the page serves a purpose, and that every paragraph moves the user closer to a solution. This is the difference between being a noisemaker in a crowded room and being the voice of authority that everyone stops to listen to. But even the best content in the world cannot rank if it is not delivered through a structure that Google can easily digest. You have the right words and you have the right intent, but how do you package that information to maximize your click-through rate and ensure that the US audience actually clicks on your result instead of your competitors? This brings us to a massive bottleneck that most creators ignore. You can have the perfect answer to a user's question, but if your headline fails to trigger the specific psychological levers of the American consumer, or if your meta description doesn't align with the latest AI-driven search previews, your site will remain a hidden gem that no one ever finds. In the next part, we are going to dive deep into the technical artistry of title tags, meta descriptions, and the secret of CTR manipulation that the top 1% of US channels use to dominate the SERPs. You will see exactly how to write headlines that bypass the analytical brain and trigger an immediate, almost subconscious click. If you think a title is just a title, you are missing half the battle. We are moving into the mechanics of the click next. The mechanism of the click is the single most important factor in determining whether your website survives the first page of Google in 2026. You can have the most authoritative content in the world, backed by the most robust technical infrastructure, but if your search result does not compel a human being to take action, you are effectively invisible. In the United States, where the average consumer is bombarded with thousands of marketing messages every single day, the battle for the click is won or lost in milliseconds. This brings us to the second of our 5 critical on-page SEO steps: engineering the high-impact title tag and meta description for the search generative experience. Historically, title tags were treated as a simple container for your primary keyword. You would place your keyword at the beginning, add a vertical pipe, and put your brand name at the end. In 2026, this approach is not only outdated, it is detrimental. Modern search engines use a complex set of user interaction signals, often referred to in historical case studies as NavBoost or clickstream data. If Google serves your page to 100 American users and only 2 of them click, while your competitor at position 5 receives 15 clicks, the algorithm will eventually swap your positions. Google's primary goal is to provide the most satisfying result for the user. A low click-through rate, or CTR, is a direct signal to the algorithm that your content is either irrelevant or low quality, regardless of how many backlinks you have. Imagine a consumer named Sarah who lives in Denver, Colorado. It is a Saturday morning and Sarah is looking for a very specific product, a high-capacity portable power station for her upcoming off-grid camping trip in the Rockies. She types into Google, "Best portable power stations for cold weather 2026." Google's search generative experience immediately provides an AI-generated overview at the top of the page, followed by the traditional organic results. Sarah's eyes are scanning for specific triggers. She is looking for reliability, cold weather performance metrics, and perhaps a mention of the current year to ensure the information is not obsolete. If your title tag says Portable Power Stations Eco-Brand, and your competitor's title tag says Top 7 Cold Weather Power Stations for 2026, tested in the Rockies, who do you think Sarah is going to click on? The competitor has used localized relevance, a specific number, a year, and a benefit-driven hook. They have engineered their title to appeal to Sarah's specific intent. To implement this level of optimization on your site, you must follow a rigorous 3-step technical framework. Step 1 is title tag engineering. In 2026, the character limit remains roughly 60 characters before truncation occurs on mobile devices. But you must now prioritize the first 30 characters for the primary entity and a curiosity gap. Historical trends show that titles containing a question or a bracketed clarification, such as "or," have a potential outcome of increasing CTR by up to 20%. For the US market, you must also consider the psychological triggers of urgency and exclusivity, using words like comprehensive, definitive, or updated for March 2026 signals to the user that your content is the most current and authoritative source available. Step 2 is the strategic meta description. While Google has historically stated that meta descriptions are not a direct ranking factor, they are the most powerful tool you have for influencing CTR. In 2026, Google frequently rewrites meta descriptions using AI to better match the user's query. To prevent this and maintain control over your messaging, you must write a meta description that is so tightly aligned with the search intent that Google's AI decides your version is superior. Your meta description should be between 150 and 160 characters and must follow a specific formula: problem, solution, and call to action. For Sarah in Denver, an effective meta description would be, "Don't let the cold drain your battery. We tested the 10 best power stations in sub-zero temperatures. See our 2026 top picks for Rocky Mountain camping." This description identifies Sarah's fear, the cold draining her battery, offers a solution based on testing, and provides a clear reason to click. Step 3 is the implementation of rich snippets and schema markup. In the competitive US landscape, having a plain text result is no longer enough. You need to provide Google with the structured data necessary to display star ratings, pricing, availability, or frequently asked questions directly on the search page. Historical data from major US e-commerce case studies suggest that pages with review schema see a significantly higher engagement rate than those without. When Sarah sees that a power station has a 4.9-star rating from over 500 verified US buyers, the trust factor increases exponentially before she even visits your site. Let us look at a case study of a specialized legal firm in Los Angeles that was struggling to gain traction for the term personal injury lawyer. Their title tags were generic, and their CTR was languishing at 1.5%. We performed a deep audit of their Search Console data and identified that their impressions were high, but their clicks were low. We restructured their titles to include a specific benefit and a local trust signal. Top-rated LA personal injury lawyers. No fee unless we win. We also added FAQ schema that answered common questions about California's statute of limitations. Within 3 months, their organic CTR jumped to 4.2%. Because of this increased user engagement, Google's algorithm pushed them from the bottom of page 1 to the top 3 positions. This is the power of optimizing for the human behind the search. However, the US market presents a unique challenge in 2026. The rise of the zero-click search. Because Google's AI is becoming so proficient at answering questions directly on the results page, you must design your titles and descriptions to create an open loop that the AI cannot satisfy. If Sarah can get the entire answer from your meta description, she has no reason to click. You must provide enough value to prove your expertise but leave a specific piece of information, a detailed comparison table, a proprietary dataset, or a step-by-step video that requires a click to access. This is the art of balancing transparency with curiosity. You must also consider the technical delivery of these elements. Every page on your site targeting the US should have a unique, handwritten title and meta description. Automated templates often lead to duplicate content issues and generic messaging that fails to resonate with the sophisticated American consumer. Use tools like Google Search Console to identify your underperforming pages. Look for keywords where you have a high average position but a lower than average CTR. These are your biggest opportunities for rapid growth. By simply refining the messaging of these pages, you can see a potential increase in traffic without creating a single new piece of content. This process of engineering the click is what separates a professional SEO strategy from an amateur one. You are not just trying to rank, you are trying to convert a searcher into a visitor. You are building a bridge between a user's problem and your solution, and that bridge is built with 60 characters of title and 160 characters of description. But what happens once they actually click? What happens when Sarah lands on your page and is greeted by a wall of text or a slow-loading interface? In the US market, getting the click is only half the battle. If Sarah clicks through and finds that your page structure is confusing, or if the information she was promised is buried under 3 layers of fluff, she will leave immediately. This brings us to the next critical phase of our masterclass. Once the user is on your site, how do you architect the content to ensure they stay, engage, and ultimately convert? We are moving from the search results page into the internal anatomy of your website. Next, we are going to dive deep into content hierarchy, header tag strategy, and the secret of the first viewport that keeps bounce rates at record lows for the top-performing US domains. We are going to look at how to structure your information so that Google's AI can easily crawl it while the human reader finds it impossible to look away. Turning a click into a stay is where the real revenue is generated. The moment the page loads, the clock starts ticking. In the highly competitive United States digital landscape, historical trends suggest that you have exactly 2.6 seconds to make a visual and intellectual connection with the user before their subconscious mind begins looking for the exit. This brings us to the third critical pillar of our on-page SEO masterclass: architecting the content hierarchy and the dominance of the first viewport. Getting the click from the search results was the hard part, but keeping the user on the page is where the actual value is built. If your site structure feels like a maze or a wall of text, the American consumer, who is conditioned for speed and clarity, will bounce back to the search results, signaling to Google that your page failed to satisfy the intent. Imagine a homeowner named Michael in Seattle, Washington. It is a rainy Tuesday in 2026, and Michael's smart thermostat has just malfunctioned, leaving his home freezing. He searches for a specific fix: how to reset a 2026 EcoSmart thermostat after a power surge. He clicks on a result that promised a solution. If Michael lands on a page where the first thing he sees is a giant hero image of a happy family and a 3-paragraph introduction about the history of smart home technology, he is gone. Michael is in a high-stakes, time-sensitive situation. He needs the reset steps immediately. To retain a user like Michael, your content hierarchy must be designed for what we call the scannable solution. The first technical requirement in this hierarchy is the H1 tag. Historically, many developers treated the H1 as a design element, but in 2026, it is the primary semantic anchor of your page. You must have only one H1 tag, and it must be the most prominent text in the first viewport. For the US market, your H1 should not just repeat your keyword, it should confirm the solution. Instead of EcoSmart Reset Guide, use a solution-oriented H1 like Step-by-Step Guide to Resetting Your 2026 EcoSmart Thermostat After a Surge. This immediately tells Michael he is in the right place. Step-by-step details indicate that your H1 must be wrapped in the correct HTML5 semantic tags to ensure that Google's crawler understands the document's architecture. Moving down the hierarchy, we encounter the H2 and H3 tags. Think of your H2S as the table of contents for your page. In 2026, Google's AI doesn't just read your page, it builds a knowledge graph of your content. If your H2S are generic, such as introduction, details, and conclusion, you are wasting valuable SEO real estate. Every H2 should be an entity-rich subtopic. For Michael's thermostat issue, your H2S should include common symptoms of a post-surge malfunction, tools required for a manual reset, and safety precautions for smart home electrical components. Historical case studies show that using long-tail, question-based H2S can lead to a potential outcome of ranking for multiple long-tail queries simultaneously. Now let us discuss the first viewport, often referred to as above the fold. In the United States, where mobile traffic accounts for over 70% of organic searches, the first viewport is the most valuable real estate on your entire website. Step 1 of optimizing this space is the elimination of fluff. You must move your most important information, the answer to the user's query, into the first 300 words. If you are writing a review, the rating should be in the first viewport. If you are providing a tutorial, the first step should be visible without scrolling. Consider the case study of a major US-based automotive parts retailer. They realized that their product pages had a bounce rate of nearly 65%. After analyzing heat maps, they found that users were spending too much time trying to find the compatibility chart, which was buried at the bottom of the page. By moving a simplified, interactive compatibility checker into the first viewport and using a clear H2 header, they saw a potential reduction in bounce rate by 22%. This change signaled to Google that the page was highly relevant to the user's specific vehicle models, leading to a significant increase in organic rankings over the following 6 months. The technical implementation of this hierarchy requires a deep understanding of semantic HTML. You should use the section and article tags to group your content logically. Within these sections, your H3 and H4 tags should act as granular dividers for complex information. For example, under the H2 regarding tools for the reset, you might have H3S for hardware tools and digital diagnostic apps. This creates a nested structure that is easy for both a human to scan and an AI to index. Furthermore, you must optimize for the American reading style. Users in the US tend to read in an F pattern. They read the top headline, the first few sentences, and then scan down the left side of the page looking for headers and bullet points. To accommodate this, every section of your content should be broken up by a visual or structural element every 200 words. This includes bulleted lists, numbered steps, or even pull quotes that highlight key data points. Historical trends in 2026 indicate that pages with a high density of structured elements, like tables and lists, are more likely to be selected for Google's search generative experience summaries. Another critical detail often overlooked in the US market is the cumulative layout shift or CLS. Imagine Michael is finally about to read the reset steps when a large advertisement loads at the top of the page, pushing the text down and making him lose his place. This is a massive failure in user experience. In 2026, Google's Core Web Vitals strictly penalize sites with high layout shifts. Your content hierarchy must be stable. This means defining the aspect ratio for your images and reserving space for any dynamic content so that the text remains stationary as the page loads. To truly master this step, you must also integrate internal linking within your hierarchy. Every H2 section presents an opportunity to link to a deeper masterclass on that specific subtopic. This doesn't just help the user. It distributes link equity throughout your site and tells Google that you are a topical authority. If Michael fixes his thermostat but then sees a link under an H2 about protecting his home from future surges, he is likely to stay on the site, further increasing his session duration and your site's perceived value. We have now covered how to align your intent, how to win the click, and how to structure your page to keep the user engaged. You have a site that looks professional, reads well, and signals authority. But there is a silent killer lurking in the background that can undo all of this hard work. You can have the best structure in the world, but if the underlying technical engine of your site is not tuned for the specific demands of the US infrastructure, you will never reach your full potential. In the US, speed is not a luxury. It is a baseline requirement. Even a half-second delay can lead to a massive drop in conversions. In the next part, we are going to dive into the high-tech world of technical performance and the core web vitals that are mandatory for the 2026 US market. We will talk about why your hosting location matters, the truth about image optimization that most plugins get wrong, and a new metric called interaction to next paint that is currently deciding the fate of thousands of American websites. If your site feels sluggish, your SEO is dead on arrival. We are going to fix that next. Interaction to next paint is the technical heartbeat of your website in 2026. While the SEO industry spent the last decade obsessed with how fast a page loads, the conversation has shifted toward how fast a page feels and responds to the human touch. In the United States, where the rollout of high-speed fiber and advanced satellite internet has made instantaneous connectivity the baseline expectation, a website that stutters or lags upon interaction is a website that will be ignored by both the user and the Google algorithm. This brings us to the fourth step of our masterclass: technical performance optimization for the American infrastructure. Imagine an entrepreneur named Jennifer in Chicago. It is 2026, and Jennifer is running her business from her mobile device while commuting. She is searching for a local logistics partner to handle her international shipping needs. She finds your site, clicks on a call to action button to download a rate sheet, and then, Nothing happens for 400 milliseconds. To the average person, 400 milliseconds feels like an eternity. Jennifer assumes the button is broken, clicks it 3 more times in frustration, and then closes the tab. In Google's eyes, your interaction to next paint metric has just spiked, signaling a poor user experience. This interaction is no longer about the initial load. It is about the visual feedback loop that occurs every time a user touches your interface. Historically, we focused on first input delay, but that metric only measured the very first interaction. INP is more comprehensive, measuring every interaction throughout the entire lifespan of the user's visit. To optimize for a US audience that demands precision, your first technical step is the elimination of main thread blocking. Most websites targeting the US are built on heavy content management systems with dozens of third-party scripts for tracking, heat maps, and advertisements. In 2026, these scripts are the primary cause of high INP scores. You must audit your JavaScript execution. Step 1 is to defer all non-essential scripts. If a tracking pixel does not need to fire the moment the page loads, it should be delayed until after the primary content has become interactive. Let us look at a case study involving a nationwide real estate platform operating across major US hubs like Dallas, New York, and San Francisco. They observed that while their largest contentful paint was within the acceptable range, their organic rankings were plateauing. An in-depth technical audit revealed that their interactive map feature was causing massive main thread contention. By refactoring their JavaScript to yield to the main thread during heavy calculations and implementing a web worker to handle the data processing, they reduced their INP from 350 milliseconds to under 80 milliseconds. Historical trends in 2026 suggest that sites achieving this level of responsiveness see a potential increase in crawl frequency, as Google's bots can more efficiently navigate the site structure. The second technical requirement for the US market is localized hosting and edge computing. If your primary audience is in the United States, but your server is located in Europe or Southeast Asia, you are fighting a losing battle against the laws of physics. Latency is the silent killer of SEO. For a user in Los Angeles, every mile the data has to travel adds milliseconds to the time to first byte. In 2026, a Tier 1 content delivery network is no longer optional. It is a prerequisite for entry. You should be utilizing edge functions to serve dynamic content from the server closest to the user. This means if Jennifer in Chicago visits your site, her request is handled by a server in a Chicago data center, not one in Virginia. This reduction in round-trip time is critical for maintaining a low LCP and a high engagement rate. Step 3 of this technical deep dive is the 2026 standard for image and media optimization. The US market is highly visual, and high-resolution imagery is expected. However, serving a 4 MB uncompressed image is a guaranteed way to destroy your core web vitals. You must implement the AVIF format as your primary image standard, with WebP as a fallback. A VIF offers superior compression without sacrificing the detail that American consumers expect when viewing products or services. Furthermore, you must utilize responsive image syntax. This ensures that a user on an iPhone in Miami is not downloading the same high-resolution asset as a user on a 40-inch desktop monitor in Boston. By serving the exact dimensions required for the device, you minimize the data transfer and speed up the rendering process. Technical performance also involves the strategy of CSS and font optimization. One of the most common causes of cumulative layout shift in the US market is the delayed loading of custom web fonts. Imagine Jennifer is reading your value proposition when the font suddenly swaps from a generic serif to your brand's custom typeface, causing the entire block of text to jump down the screen. To prevent this, you should use the font display swap property and preload your critical brand fonts. By hosting these fonts locally on your own CDN, rather than relying on external providers, you reduce the number of DNS lookups and ensure a stable, shift-free experience from the first millisecond. The 2026 technical landscape also requires a focus on what we call clean code architecture. Many American websites are plagued by CSS and JavaScript bloat from unused features in their themes or plugins. You must perform a coverage analysis using modern browser developer tools to identify code that is being loaded but never executed. By stripping away this dead weight, you reduce the parsing time for the browser. Historical case studies show that a leaner codebase leads to more consistent performance across varying device types, from high-end workstations to budget smartphones used in rural US areas where 5G coverage may be intermittent. We must also address the impact of the search generative experience on technical SEO. Google's AI crawlers are looking for technical signals that your site is a reliable source for its generated answers. This means your structured data must be technically flawless. If your schema markup has syntax errors or refers to broken URLs, the AI will likely skip your content in favor of a competitor with a cleaner technical profile. Your technical performance is the skeleton upon which your content hangs. If the skeleton is weak, the entire structure will collapse under the weight of the competitive US market. To implement these steps, you should start by running a full Core Web Vitals report for your mobile and desktop versions separately. In the US, mobile-first indexing is the absolute law. If your desktop site is fast but your mobile experience is sluggish, Google will judge you by your weakest link. Focus on the interaction to Next Paint first, as it is the most accurate reflection of modern user satisfaction. Once you have stabilized your responsiveness, move to optimizing your assets in your hosting environment. This technical foundation is what allows your high-quality content to actually reach the eyes of your target audience. You have now built a website that understands intent, captures the click, structures information perfectly, and performs with the speed of a world-class application. You are ahead of 95% of the competition in the US market. However, there is one final piece of the puzzle that connects everything together. Without this final step, your pages are like isolated islands in a vast ocean. You need to build the bridges that allow authority to flow through your entire domain and tell Google exactly which pages are your most important assets. The final step in our 5-step framework is the most misunderstood and underutilized weapon in the on-page SEO arsenal. It is the art of internal architecture and semantic silos. This is where we turn a collection of great pages into an unstoppable topical authority powerhouse. In the next part, we are going to dive into the strategic world of internal linking and site siloing. We will show you how to use your internal links to manipulate crawl budget, and how to create a topical map that makes it impossible for Google to ignore your expertise. The final layer of dominance is coming next. The fifth and final step of this high-level on-page framework is the strategic architecture of internal linking and topical siloing. If you think of your website as a library, your individual pages are the books, but your internal links are the index, the cross-references, and the physical shelves that group related knowledge together. In the 2026 search landscape, Google's algorithm does not just evaluate your pages in a vacuum. It evaluates the topical depth of your entire domain. This is known as topical authority. In the United States, where competitors are constantly pumping out content, the only way to stand out is to prove to Google that you are not just a site with a few good articles, but the definitive resource for your entire niche. Imagine a business owner named David in Columbus, Ohio. David sells high-end, solar-powered hydroponic systems for residential greenhouses. He has a great homepage, a few product pages, and a blog where he writes about general gardening tips. In 2025, David's traffic was stagnant. Why? Because his content was disjointed. He had a post about tomato nutrients, another about solar panel efficiency, and another about water pH levels, but they were not connected in a way that Google could interpret as a cohesive expert system. When David moved into 2026, he implemented the pillar and cluster model, which is the gold standard for American SEO architecture. Step 1 of this process is identifying your pillar page. This is your high-level comprehensive resource on a broad topic. For David, this was a 5,000-word guide titled The Ultimate Guide to Residential Hydroponic Systems in 2026. This page is designed to rank for broad, high-volume terms. Step 2 is creating cluster content. These are smaller, highly specific articles that dive deep into subtopics mentioned in the pillar. David wrote specific guides on LED spectrums for lettuce, battery storage for solar pumps, and organic nutrient solutions. The technical magic happens in Step 3, the linking logic. Every single cluster article must link back to the pillar page using a descriptive, entity-rich anchor text. Simultaneously, the pillar page must link out to every cluster article. This creates a two-way street of authority. In the US market, historical trends show that this structure helps Googlebot understand the relationship between concepts. When Google's crawler hits one of David's nutrient guides, it immediately finds a path back to the master guide. This signals that the master guide is the authoritative hub. Potential outcomes of this strategy include a faster indexing rate for new content and a significant boost in the rankings of the pillar page because it is being supported by dozens of relevant, internal votes of confidence. Now, let us discuss the nuances of anchor text optimization for the 2026 American audience. Gone are the days of using click here or read more. In a semantic search environment, your anchor text must tell the user and the bot exactly what is on the other side of the link. If David is linking from a post about solar panels to a post about battery maintenance, his anchor text should be something like residential solar battery maintenance protocols. This provides a clear semantic signal. However, you must avoid over-optimization. If every single link to your pillar page uses the exact same keyword, it looks unnatural. Historical case studies suggest that a mix of exact match, partial match, and descriptive long-tail anchor text is the most effective way to build a resilient internal link profile. The fourth step in this architectural shift is the concept of siloing. There are two types: physical and virtual. Physical siloing involves your URL structure. For example, yoursite.com/hydroponics/nutrients/organic-solutions. This tells the search engine that the page is a subcategory of nutrients, which is a subcategory of hydroponics. Virtual siloing, which is often more flexible for established US sites, relies entirely on the internal linking structure to group content, regardless of the URL. In 2026, Google is highly proficient at interpreting virtual silos, but having a clean, logical URL hierarchy still provides a secondary layer of clarity that can give you a competitive edge. Consider a case study of a major US-based health insurance comparison site. They had thousands of pages but were losing market share to smaller, more focused competitors. They realized their internal linking was a mess. Pages about dental insurance were linking to blog posts about fitness, which linked back to life insurance. There was no topical focus. By implementing strict virtual silos, ensuring that dental insurance pages only link to other dental-related content and only cross-link to general health pillars when absolutely necessary, they saw a potential increase in their topical authority scores. Within 8 months, they reclaimed the top spots for several high-competition keywords in the US market. This happened because Google could finally categorize the site as an expert in distinct sub-niches rather than a generalist aggregator. Another critical benefit of this architecture is the management of crawl budget. For large websites targeting the USA, Googlebot does not have infinite time to crawl every page. If your site is a tangled web of disconnected links, the bot might get stuck in a loop or miss your most important new content. By using a logical siloing structure, you guide the bot through your most important pages first. You can use your internal links to funnel link equity from your high-authority pages, like your homepage or your most linked-to blog posts, down to your new or underperforming pages. This is like a strategic irrigation system for your SEO value. To implement this on your own site, you should perform a link audit. Identify your pages with the most external backlinks. These are your power pages. Then, identify the pages you want to rank higher, but which currently have few links. Use your power pages to link to these target pages using relevant, contextual anchor text. In the US market, where competition for external backlinks is fierce and expensive, maximizing the value of your existing internal equity is the most cost-effective way to improve your rankings. Furthermore, we must address the user experience aspect. Internal linking is not just for bots. In 2026, American users expect a seamless, Wikipedia-style experience where they can deep dive into a topic without ever leaving your site. If Sarah, our camper from Denver, is reading about power stations and sees a link to a guide on solar panel compatibility, she is likely to click it. This increases her session duration and reduces the bounce rate. These are high-quality user signals that tell Google your site is satisfying the user's journey. In the US, where the average attention span is short, providing the next logical step in the user's research process is key to conversion. But there is a trap that many US marketers fall into: the footer and sidebar link overload. In 2026, Google puts significantly more weight on contextual links, those found within the body of your content, than on navigational links in the footer or sidebar. If you have 500 links in your footer, Google largely ignores them as noise. You must prioritize the links that appear within your high-quality prose. These are the links that carry the most weight, because they are surrounded by relevant text that provides context to the link. As we wrap up these 5 fundamental steps, you have a roadmap that covers intent, titles, structure, performance, and architecture. This is the foundation of the 2026 on-page SEO Masterclass. But even with these 5 steps perfectly implemented, you are still only looking at the surface level of what is possible. The US market is moving toward a future where AI does not just crawl your site, but interprets your brand's entire digital footprint. If you want to stay ahead of the massive corporations with million-dollar budgets, you need to understand how to monitor, audit, and evolve this strategy in real time. The initial setup is just the beginning. The real winners are those who know how to read the data and pivot before the next algorithm update hits. In the next part of this 10-part series, We are going to move beyond the setup and into the high-stakes world of the advanced on-page audit. We will look at the invisible errors that are likely killing your rankings right now, and how to use proprietary 2026 tools to see exactly what Google's AI thinks of your site before it ever reaches the search results. The secret of the audit is where the true power lies, and we are opening that door next. The transition from implementation to auditing is where most US-based digital marketers lose their momentum. They treat on-page SEO as a one-time setup, a set-and-forget task that belongs in the launch phase of a project. However, historical trends from the mid-2020s indicate that the most successful domains in the American market are those that treat their website like a living, breathing organism that requires constant diagnostic care. In 2026, the competitive landscape is so volatile that a page ranking at the top of the search results on Monday can be pushed to the second page by Friday due to a shift in semantic relevance or a competitor's superior entity mapping. This is why the advanced on-page audit is the secret weapon of the top 1%. Imagine a marketing director named Marcus based in San Francisco. Marcus manages a high-growth fintech platform that provides automated tax solutions for freelance contractors across the United States. In early 2026, Marcus noticed a slow but steady decline in organic traffic to his primary pillar pages. His technical scores were perfect, his content was written by subject matter experts, and his internal linking followed the silo model we discussed previously. Yet, his rankings were slipping. Marcus was a victim of what we call semantic decay and internal competition, two invisible errors that a standard SEO checklist will never catch. To save his traffic, Marcus had to move beyond the basics and perform a 2026 standard deep audit. The first phase of this advanced audit involves solving the crisis of content cannibalization. In the US market, where content production is at an all-time high, many websites inadvertently create multiple pages that target the same search intent. For Marcus, he had 10 different blog posts all discussing secure online payments for freelancers. To a human reader, they all offered slightly different tips. To Google's 2026 algorithm, they were a disorganized mess of competing signals. This internal conflict forces Google to choose which page is the best, often resulting in all of them being suppressed in favor of a competitor who has one definitive, comprehensive resource. To implement a solution, you must follow a rigorous data export process. Step 1 is to export your last 6 months of performance data from Google Search Console. You are looking for instances where multiple URLs are receiving impressions for the exact same query. In Marcus's case, he found that 5 of his pages were splitting the impressions for the high-value term freelance tax security. Step 2 is the consolidation strategy. You must identify the page with the highest historical authority and the best user engagement metrics. This becomes your master page. The other 4 pages must be either deleted, with their unique value-add content merged into the master page, or redirected using a 301 status code. This concentrated authority tells Google exactly which entity is the definitive answer, often resulting in a potential outcome of a rapid climb back to the top 3 positions. The second phase of the audit is the semantic gap analysis. In 2026, Google's search generative experience is powered by large language models that understand the relationship between topics better than ever before. If your competitors are mentioning specific new regulations, such as the 2026 freelance reporting requirements in California, and your content is still referencing 2024 standards, you have a semantic gap. To find these gaps, you cannot rely on manual reading. You must use LLM-based auditing tools that compare your content against the top-performing results in the US region. These tools generate a topical map of your page versus the competition. If the map shows a void in your coverage of a critical subentity, that is an invisible error that is holding you back. For Marcus, he discovered that his competitors were all discussing the integration of AI in tax auditing, a topic he hadn't updated in 6 months. By filling that gap with 3 paragraphs of expert insight, he restored his topical relevance. Historical case studies from 2025 show that information gain has become a primary ranking factor in the United States. Google no longer wants to rank 10 pages that all say the same thing. It wants to rank pages that provide a unique perspective, a new data set, or a practical tool that the others lack. During your audit, you must ask a hard question. If a user reads my page after reading the top 3 results, will they learn anything new? If the answer is no, your page is at risk of being classified as derivative content. To fix this, you must inject original data, proprietary case studies, or unique US-centric examples into every high-priority page. Marcus implemented this by adding a live tax savings calculator to his pillar page, a feature none of his competitors offered. This didn't just help his SEO. It increased his average session duration by over 90 seconds. The third phase is the intent shift audit. Search intent in the US is not static. In 2026, a query that was once informational can shift to being transactional almost overnight. For example, the term remote work security was once a research-based query. Now, it is a high-intent commercial query for specific software solutions. During your audit, you must manually check the search engine results page for your top 50 keywords. Look at what Google is currently rewarding. Are there more videos? Are there more comparison tables? Is the AI summary providing a direct answer? If the SERP has changed and your page format has not, you are misaligned with the current intent. Step-by-step details for this phase include a thorough review of your click-through rate versus your average position. If your position is high but your CTR is falling, it is a clear signal that the American audience is no longer finding your snippet relevant to their current needs. This is often where you need to return to step 2 of our masterclass and re-engineer your titles for the 2026 mindset. Marcus found that by simply changing his titles from informational to problem-solving, for example, shifting from understanding freelance taxes to how to save $5,000 on freelance taxes in 2026, he was able to reverse his traffic decline without changing the core content of the page. The final component of the advanced audit is the entity health check. You must ensure that your schema markup is not only technically valid, but semantically current. In 2026, Google uses organizations, people, and places as the anchors of its trust system. If your author bio doesn't link to a verified LinkedIn profile or a portfolio that demonstrates a history of expertise in the US market, your EAT signals are weak. Your audit must verify that every page has an author entity, and that this entity is connected to the wider web. This tells the algorithm that a real qualified human is standing behind the information, which is the ultimate defense against the flood of anonymous AI content. By the time Marcus finished this deep audit, he hadn't just fixed his traffic. He had built a more resilient, authoritative, and user-centric platform. He realized that on-page SEO in the United States is an ongoing game of chess, not a race to a finish line. But even with a perfectly audited site, there is one more layer of the search engine that is becoming the dominant way Americans consume information. The search generative experience is changing the rules of the game again. It is no longer enough to just rank in the blue links. You must be the source that the AI cites in its generated answers. If you are not optimized for AI-driven summaries, you are missing out on the most prominent real estate on the screen. In the next part of this series, we are moving into the future of SEO, optimizing for the search generative experience and AI overviews. We will break down exactly how Google's AI selects which websites to feature, how to structure your content to be LLM-friendly, and the secret of the citation loop that keeps your brand at the center of the conversation. The AI revolution in search is already here, and we are going to master it next. The Search Generative Experience, or SGE, has fundamentally redefined the anatomy of a search results page in the United States. In 2026, when a user enters a query, they are no longer just presented with a list of blue links. They are greeted by a comprehensive, AI-synthesized overview that attempts to answer their question before they ever click a single website. For many US-based creators, this was initially seen as a threat to organic traffic. However, historical trends from the last 18 months have shown that being featured as a primary source within these AI overviews can lead to a potential outcome of significantly higher click-through rates than even the #1 organic spot. This is because the AI acts as a digital endorsement. If Google's AI uses your data to answer a complex question, you are no longer just a search result. You are a verified authority. Imagine a specialized consultant named Chloe in Boston, Massachusetts. Chloe runs an agency focused on sustainable supply chain management for mid-sized American manufacturers. When a potential client searches for something like impact of 2026 federal carbon tax regulations on Massachusetts textile manufacturing, they aren't looking for a generic blog post. They are looking for a precise, multifaceted answer. Google's AI overview will pull data points from across the web to construct this answer. If your website is the one providing the specific breakdown of tax brackets and compliance timelines, your link will be prominently cited as the source. Chloe's success in 2026 isn't just about ranking for keywords. It is about becoming the primary data source for the large language models that power these search experiences. To master SGE optimization, you must implement the inverted pyramid of information. Historically, this was a journalistic technique, but in 2026, it is a technical SEO requirement for AI parsability. The AI is looking for a clear, concise, and definitive answer to the user's primary query within the first 2 paragraphs of your content. This is your answer snapshot. Step 1 is to lead with a declarative statement. If the user asks for a comparison, provide a summary of that comparison in the first 50 words. If they ask for a process, list the 5 core steps immediately. By giving the AI a high-quality summary to digest, you increase the likelihood of being selected as the featured source. Step-by-step details for SG optimization require a shift in how you use structured data. Beyond standard schema.org markup, you must now focus on semantic richness. This involves using descriptive, natural language within your HTML to define the relationships between your entities. For Chloe, this meant ensuring that her content didn't just mention carbon tax, but explicitly linked it to entities like the Environmental Protection Agency and specific 2026 legislative bills. Historical case studies suggest that when a website provides these clear entity associations, AI models can more easily verify the accuracy of the information, leading to a higher trust score. Now let us discuss the secret of the citation loop. In the US market, AI overviews often provide 3 to 5 citations for a single answer. To secure one of these spots, your content must offer what we call source-worthy data. This is information that is not easily found elsewhere. Original research, proprietary survey results, or a unique expert synthesis of public data. Case studies of high-traffic US news and tech sites show that pages with original data visualizations or unique statistical tables are cited up to 4 times more frequently by AI overviews than pages that only contain text. When Chloe published an original white paper on the cost of compliance for Boston-based firms, the AI didn't just summarize her findings. It linked directly to her page as the definitive proof. The 2026 searcher is also using iterative searching. They ask a question, read the AI summary, and then ask a follow-up question. Your on-page structure must anticipate this conversational flow. We call this intent-led content layering. Below your initial answer snapshot, you should have sections that address the logical next questions. If your pillar page is about carbon tax, your H2S should answer follow-up questions like, how to apply for manufacturing credits, or what are the penalties for late reporting? By creating a comprehensive ecosystem of answers on a single page, you keep the user within your influence and provide the AI with all the material it needs for a multi-step conversation. Technical implementation also requires optimizing for what we call LLM readability. This means avoiding overly complex sentence structures or flowery language that can confuse an AI's sentiment analysis. In the US, the most successful SGE-optimized content is direct, authoritative, and uses active verbs. Use bulleted lists to break down complex data, and ensure your tables are properly coded with headers and rows. An AI crawler can digest a well-formatted table in milliseconds, extracting the exact data point Sarah or Chloe needs, whereas a long, rambling paragraph might be ignored entirely. Furthermore, we have to look at the concept of information gain in the context of SGE. Google's AI is specifically designed to identify and promote content that adds something new to the existing knowledge pool. If you are simply rehashing the top 5 articles in the US, the AI has no reason to cite you. It already has that information. To win the citation, you must provide a new angle. This could be a local US perspective, a controversial but well-reasoned expert opinion, or a highly specific case study. Chloe achieved this by interviewing local factory owners and including their direct quotes and real-world challenges. This added a layer of human experience that the AI could not generate on its own, making her content indispensable. Historical trends also point toward the importance of narrative trust. In the US, where AI-generated spam is becoming a major problem, Google's AI is prioritizing sources that demonstrate a long-term commitment to a topic. This is where your author entities and your About Us page become critical on-page elements. Your site must prove that it has been covering these topics consistently. If you suddenly start writing about manufacturing taxes after years of writing about travel, the AI may flag your sudden shift as a low authority signal. Stability and topical focus are the currencies of trust in 2026. As we analyze the potential outcomes of a successful SGE strategy, it is clear that the goal is no longer just a click. It is brand integration. When your brand name appears next to the answer a user just received, you have achieved a level of top-of-mind awareness that a standard advertisement could never buy. You are now part of the user's decision-making process. Chloe found that users who clicked through from an AI citation were 3 times more likely to sign up for her newsletter because they already viewed her as a pre-vetted expert. However, there is a risk. If your content is too concise, the AI might provide the entire answer on the search page, leading to a zero-click result. To prevent this, you must master the art of the value-add gap. You provide the core answer for the AI to cite, but you promise a deeper level of utility upon clicking, such as an interactive tool, a downloadable template, or an expanded video masterclass. You give the AI the what, but you keep the how-to and the execution tools behind the click. This ensures that you get both the authority of the citation and the traffic of the visitor. We have explored how to align with the AI, how to structure your data for citations, and how to build a topical ecosystem that the search generative experience finds irresistible. You are now looking at your website not just as a destination, but as a primary node in the global knowledge graph. But the search engine is not the only place where these AI models are interacting with your brand. In the US, the rise of specialized AI agents and personal assistants means that your content must be optimized for more than just a screen. It must be optimized for discovery across an entire network of AI-driven platforms. What happens when a user doesn't even use a search bar? What happens when they ask their AI assistant to find the best partner for their business while they are driving? The way your information is structured on the page determines whether you are the one the assistant recommends, or if you are left out of the conversation entirely. This leads us into the next level of our deep dive. Beyond the search results and the AI overviews, there is a hidden layer of SEO that involves the very code that defines your site's identity. In the next part, we are going to explore the high-level implementation of advanced schema and the knowledge graph. We will show you how to code your site's identity so that you aren't just a web page, but a recognized entity in the mind of the global AI. The final technical frontier is coming next. To understand the final technical frontier of 2026, we must look past the pixels on the screen and dive into the underlying architecture of the Internet's collective intelligence. For over a decade, SEO was about helping a search engine read your words. In 2026, on-page SEO is about helping a search engine understand your identity. This is the realm of advanced schema and knowledge graph integration. This is not just about adding a few lines of code to your header. It is about establishing your brand as a verified entity within Google's Knowledge Vault. In the United States market, where consumer trust is the most fragile and valuable commodity, being a recognized entity is what separates a fly-by-night operation from a legacy brand. Imagine a specialized contractor named Jason, who runs an high-end HVAC and air purification business in Denver, Colorado. Jason is a true expert with 20 years of experience, but to a search engine in early 2026, he was just another website in a sea of local competitors. When a user in Denver asks their AI assistant, "Who is the most qualified person to install a HEPA filtration system for a house with severe allergy sufferers?" the assistant doesn't just look for keywords. It looks for a verified entity. It seeks a person or organization with a documented history of expertise, a physical presence in the US, and a network of digital connections that prove their authority. This is the problem we are solving today. How to use the secret language of JSON LD schema to build Jason's digital identity from the ground up. Historical trends since 2024 show that websites with comprehensive, error-free schema markup have a much higher potential outcome of being featured in high-intent AI recommendations. The first step in this advanced process is the implementation of person and organization schema with the same as property. This property is the digital handshake of the modern web. It tells Google that the Jason mentioned on this website is the exact same Jason who has a verified professional profile on LinkedIn, the same Jason who is listed in the Denver Chamber of Commerce, and the same Jason who has published articles on industry-leading trade journals. By linking these disparate data points through JSON LD, you are not just providing information, you are providing a map of your authority. Step by step, this requires moving beyond the basic name and address fields. In 2026, you must utilize the knows about and member of properties. For Jason, his schema should explicitly state that he knows about HEPA filtration, indoor air quality standards, and Colorado building codes. By defining these specific expertise nodes, you are essentially feeding the Google Knowledge Graph the exact triplets it needs to categorize your brand. A triplet is a fundamental unit of knowledge: subject, predicate, and object. Jason's subject is an expert in predicate, indoor air quality, object. When Google's AI sees this pattern repeated and verified across multiple high-authority sources in the US, it begins to treat Jason's website as the definitive source for that specific topic. The second critical component of this technical masterclass is the optimization of product and service schema for the 2026 Merchant Center standards. For a US-based audience, transparency is key. Your schema must include more than just a price. It needs to include shipping details, which specifically outline delivery times and costs within the United States. It needs to include has measurement for technical specifications and energy efficiency details, which are increasingly important to American consumers. Historical case studies of US e-commerce brands suggest that providing this level of granular data directly in the schema leads to more prominent displays in the search generative experience, where the AI can compare your product's specific attributes against competitors in real time. Furthermore, we must address the power of FAQ and video schema in 2026. While we discussed the content of FAQs earlier, the technical delivery is what secures the real estate. When you wrap your questions and answers in FAQPage schema, you are essentially handing Google a pre-packaged answer for its voice search and AI assistant results. If Jason's site has a schema marked up answer to, "How often should I change a MERV 16 filter in a dry climate like Colorado?" he is positioned to be the immediate answer for a user driving their car or using a smart home device. Similarly, Video Object Schema allows you to define seek points or clips within your content. This tells the AI that at the 2-minute mark of Jason's video, he explains exactly how to test a sensor. This granularity makes your content more useful and more likely to be featured in the video-heavy SERPs of 2026. Now, let us look at a case study of a nationwide US-based insurance provider. They were struggling to maintain authority in a market flooded by new AI-driven competitors. By performing a deep schema audit and implementing a nested structure that linked their corporate organization schema to hundreds of individual agent person schemas, they created a massive web of verified local expertise. They used the area served property to precisely define which states and cities each agent covered. This signaled to Google that they weren't just a faceless corporation, but a localized network of experts. Within 1 year, they saw a potential increase in local search visibility by 35%. The algorithm rewarded the clarity of their organizational structure, proving that in 2026, organizational transparency is a ranking factor. The technical implementation of these schemas should always be done using JSON LD, as it is the format preferred by modern search engines for its ease of parsing. You must also ensure that your schema is dynamic. If Jason changes his pricing or adds a new certification, the schema should update automatically. Static schema that becomes outdated is a negative trust signal. You can use server-side tools to ensure your JSON LD reflects the real-time state of your business. This is especially important for US businesses that are subject to frequent regulatory changes. Keeping your schema updated with the latest compliance certifications tells Google you are a responsible and current entity. Another advanced layer of this strategy involves review schema and the aggregator rating property. In the US, the consumer's first instinct is to look for social proof. However, Google is increasingly wary of fake reviews. In 2026, your review schema should link to the individual reviewer's own digital entity if possible, or at least be hosted on a platform that uses verified purchase data. This adds a layer of authenticity that the AI can verify. When Jason's 5-star reviews are backed by schema that links to real-world projects and verified Denver-based customers, the trust score of his entire domain rises. As we reach the conclusion of this 9th part, you have moved from the surface level of keywords and titles into the very DNA of how the internet understands who you are. You have built a site that is not just readable, but understandable to the most advanced AI systems on the planet. You have established Jason as a verified authority in Denver, built a web of trust through the same as property, and structured your products and services for maximum visibility. You have completed the technical and architectural requirements of a world-class US website. But a collection of perfect parts does not necessarily make a perfect whole. You have all the pieces of the puzzle: the intent, the titles, the structure, the performance, the links, the audit, the AI optimization, and the schema. Now, you need the master plan to bring it all together. You need to know how to maintain this dominance in a market that never stops evolving. In the final part of this 10-part deep dive masterclass, we are going to synthesize everything into the 2026 on-page SEO Power Workflow. We will show you how to execute this strategy daily, how to stay ahead of the next major Google Core update, and the final secret that ensures your brand doesn't just rank for today, but dominates for the next decade. The grand finale of your digital transformation is next. The 2026 on-page SEO Power Workflow is the final stage of your transformation. This is where we stop talking about individual tactics and start talking about a unified, self-sustaining machine. In the United States market, The difference between a website that experiences a temporary spike in traffic and one that maintains top-tier dominance for an entire decade is the implementation of a repeatable, daily system. We are moving beyond the setup phase and into the mastery phase. To succeed in 2026, you cannot view your website as a static document. You must view it as a high-performance engine that requires constant calibration to stay ahead of the most sophisticated search algorithms in history. Imagine a marketing lead named Emily based in Miami, Florida. Emily manages a comprehensive digital resource for residential property management across the Southeast. By early 2026, she had implemented every technical step we have discussed. Her intent was mapped to the precise needs of Florida landlords. Her titles were engineered for maximum click-through rates. Her site structure was a model of clarity, and her technical speed was unmatched. However, Emily knew that in the US market, stagnation is the equivalent of invisibility. Her secret to staying at number one, even during major core updates, was her daily calibration protocol. This is the first of the final 3 pillars of our masterclass. The daily calibration protocol involves more than just checking your rankings in a dashboard. It requires a surgical analysis of the search engine results page features for your top 20 high-value keywords every single morning. In 2026, the US search landscape is incredibly fluid. One morning, Google might decide that a query for property management laws should be answered by a detailed comparison table. By the next afternoon, it might shift to prioritizing a video summary within the search generative experience. Emily's workflow included a 15-minute deep dive into these shifts. If she saw a new type of interactive element appearing in the results, she didn't wait for a monthly audit. She updated her content that day to include a similar or superior feature. Historical trends suggest that this level of agility can lead to a potential outcome of securing the most prominent real estate in the SG before competitors even realize the search intent has evolved. Step by step, this calibration involves 3 specific actions. First, you must monitor your information gain score. As we have discussed, Google in 2026 prioritizes content that adds something new to the web. Every time Emily updated a page, she added a fresh data point, a new quote from a local Miami legal expert, or an updated statistic on rental market trends. This constant infusion of new information tells the algorithm that her site is the most current and authoritative source available. Second, you must perform a sentiment alignment check. In the US, public opinion and professional standards can shift rapidly. If your content is still using an outdated tone or referencing obsolete best practices, your engagement metrics will suffer. Third, you must conduct a technical pulse check. This involves verifying that no new third-party scripts or design changes have impacted your interaction to Next Paint scores. For Emily, this meant a daily automated test of her site's responsiveness on the most popular mobile devices in the Miami area. The second pillar of our grand finale is the AT evolution. In the 2026 search environment, Google has moved toward author entities as one of the primary filters for the United States market. You are no longer just optimizing a page, you are optimizing the reputation of the people behind the page. Emily's strategy involved a process we call entity reinforcement. Every time she or one of her contributors was mentioned in a reputable US publication, participated in a professional real estate webinar, or spoke at a conference in Orlando or Atlanta, that data was immediately reflected in their on-page signals. This was done by updating the author bios with fresh external links and ensuring the person schema was updated to include these new accolades. This isn't just about vanity, it is the technical infrastructure of trust. Case studies from 2025 indicate that websites where authors actively maintain their digital footprints across multiple verified platforms see a much higher level of resilience during volatile algorithm updates. The third and perhaps most critical pillar is predictive SEO and future-proofing. The next major Google core update is never a matter of if, but when. To future-proof your site for the American market, you must look at where the technology is heading, not just where it is today. We see a clear historical trend where Google aggressively penalizes any content that feels like it was written for a search engine and rewards content that feels like it was written by a human expert for a human reader. Emily practiced what we call the fluff audit. Once per quarter, she would take her highest-ranking pages and ruthlessly remove any sentence that didn't provide direct value or information gain. She replaced generic introductory text with immediate, data-driven insights. She focused on the first viewport experience, ensuring that a user in a hurry could get 80% of the value of the page within the first 10 seconds of landing. The final secret of this masterclass, the one that ensures your brand dominates for the next decade, is the total alignment of on-page SEO with the user's emotional journey. In 2026, the Google algorithm has become a highly accurate proxy for human satisfaction. If a user in the US lands on your page, finds exactly what they need, and then takes a positive action, whether that is interacting with a tool, sharing the link with a colleague, or simply staying on the page for 5 minutes, Google interprets this as the ultimate signal of quality. Your on-page SEO should not be seen as a set of rules to satisfy a bot, but as a commitment to providing the best possible service to your audience. Emily didn't just want to rank. She wanted to be the most helpful property management resource in the country. This mindset shift is what allowed her to survive and thrive, while her competitors were constantly chasing the latest hack or shortcut. By following this 10-part masterclass, you have moved from a basic understanding of keywords to a high-level mastery of intent mapping, title engineering, content architecture, technical performance, semantic siloing, AI optimization, and advanced entity coding. You have built a foundation that is technically flawless and semantically rich. You have a workflow that is agile, data-driven, and focused on long-term authority. You are now equipped to compete at the highest level of the United States digital economy. You have the blueprints to build a digital asset that is resilient to change and designed for excellence. But as you have learned, the world of search is vast and multifaceted. You have mastered everything that happens within the walls of your own website. But there is an entire world of influence that exists beyond your domain. In the US market, where competition is fierce and reputation is everything, your on-page foundation is only half of the story. To truly reach the pinnacle of authority, you need to understand the hidden networks of influence that determine how the rest of the web perceives your brand. You need to know how to turn your perfectly optimized site into a magnet for the most powerful newsworthy backlinks in the country. There is a specific, advanced strategy for building a US-centric authority profile that doesn't rely on generic outreach, but on becoming a source of truth that the largest media outlets in the world are forced to cite. If you are ready to take your perfectly optimized on-page foundation and scale it into a national authority powerhouse that attracts the highest quality links on the planet, then you are ready for the next evolution of your digital journey. We are moving from the foundation to the skyscrapers of authority. The transition from on-page excellence to off-page dominance is the key to the next decade of your growth. And that journey into the world of high-authority US backlink strategy begins in our next masterclass series.